Today I want to talk about treadmill running and the pros and cons of running on a treadmill. More specifically, I have 3 pros and 3 cons that I want to focus on when it comes to running on the treadmill. And the caveat here is that when I'm talking about treadmill running, I'm thinking about if you are specifically running for a goal. So for me, that goal is running the Glass City Marathon in Toledo on the 24th of April. And unfortunately, living in Michigan, the weather does not accommodate with my training schedule like I would want it to, which leaves me having to run on the treadmill for a lot more runs than I would like to. And so with that, you have to look at the pros of treadmill running and not just focus on the cons of the treadmill, as most people call it, and try and think of what benefits can I find from utilizing the treadmill in some of my workouts and runs. So the first pro is a pretty obvious one. When the weather is bad, the treadmill will allow for you to be able to run safely and healthily, not slipping and falling and injuring yourself and potentially ruining everything you've worked for that race. So for me specifically with Glass City, on the days where it's insanely icy, it's freezing cold, and I need to run, like yesterday, 18 miles. Luckily, yesterday the weather was nice, so I was able to go outside, but a lot of this training, that hasn't been the case. And trying to go outside, I don't want to slip and fall and potentially injure something and then basically not be able to run because I was running outside and injured myself. And even though the treadmill might be something that you completely dread, being able to hit your target mileage and target paces that you need to through your training is definitely a pro in my book, considering that when there's bad weather, I'm not gonna most likely be able to hit my mileage, my paces, and I'm probably gonna get injured and not be able to run my race at all. So the only con with the weather is that on race day, you're not gonna be able to control what the weather is at all. So avoiding the weather, even though if it's crazy like what I showed where the snow is really bad, I don't know if they would actually still host the race, but either way, running outside in the weather is worth doing at least sometimes to get used to the fact that on race day, it's gonna be outside and you're not gonna be able to control the weather. And so you do need to get acclimated as a runner to those different weather conditions, whether it be heavy winds, rain, snow, just cold, super hot, like all of the things that encompass the yearly annual weather. You need to acclimate your body and your running to that so that you know you can actually hit that goal you've set for yourself for your race outside, not just on a treadmill where everything's consistent and perfect. You need to be able to do that in any type of condition, basically. So the only con to treadmill running is you do lose that kind of X factor of the weather on race day. So the second pro to treadmill running is being able to really lock into a pace. Since the treadmill is a continuous motor and you can just set that speed to whatever you want for however long you want, it can really help you lock into understanding that muscle memory of a pace. What I love about the treadmill is that with that continuous motor, I can set it at a 7 mile per hour speed and just really hone in on what that feels like for my turnover and my legs, and how it feels to run that pace over a set distance or set time. It really, like I said, just helps you lock in and start to create that muscle memory. So then when you finally do go back outside, you have a better feeling of being able to lock into those paces that you've been running on the treadmill all winter long. Now, the only con to those paces is the fact that it is a treadmill, it is a continuous motor. There's really no variables that you would have to think of other than maybe incline if you are either having it follow through something like iFit where you're doing a workout or you're manually changing the incline. But other than that, there's really nothing to think of. So when it comes to the paces, this is gonna kind of go back into that environmental part of like being outside. Being outside, you obviously can't control for variables such as the weather. So trying to hit a pace with heavy headwinds for 8 miles, trying to hit a pace while it's raining super hard, trying to hit a pace while it's cold or super hot. Things that are obviously gonna change your temperament and your body and how you're feeling. When you're on a treadmill, like I said, there's no real variables, so you're able to hit those pace consistently and lock into that pace, but learning how to lock into that pace when you have variables such as the weather can be a lot more difficult, and that's why I would say it's a con for the treadmill. And you gotta remember, this is with my race in mind. Like, these pros and cons are with my race in the forefront of like why I say it's a con. Learning to hit my marathon pace and my easy pace, long run pace, like all those paces, I need to learn how to hit them no matter what the weather is like, so that on race day, I can hit my target goal, or even learn how to like adjust for that target goal based on how bad the weather is on that day. And you just can't replicate that on the treadmill. I mean, you could buy like an industrial fan if you wanted and blow it at you, but I still don't think you could fully replicate what is gonna happen on race day with the treadmill. So it's a con in there, but I still think the big pro is learning how to lock in and fine tune those paces, especially if you're a newer runner like I am. I haven't even hit 2 years of running yet. So learning how that feels and creating that muscle memory, for me, at least right now, maybe if I'd been running for 10 plus years, this would be different. But right now, at the beginning stages of my running journey, I think it's a huge pro to learn those paces and really lock in that muscle memory of what it feels like to hit all different types of pace ranges, where you have that motor helping you along. And the third and final pro of treadmill running is being able to fine tune your form. So once again, there's no variables with the treadmill. You just have this flat surface running at whatever pace you want. You don't even have to add incline if you do not want to. So being able to fine tune your form, especially longer in a treadmill run, is really, really helpful. And the reason I believe this is such a pro is the simple fact that you have no other variables. So when you're starting to get really tired, there's really only one thing to kind of fix how you're feeling on a treadmill specifically, and that is fixing your form. And so you know there's gonna be a con, and like all the other cons, even though running and focusing on your running form with no other variables is great, eventually you have to run outside, and on race day, you're gonna be outside. So learning how to take that treadmill running and taking it outside can be two different things altogether, because once again, there's so many variables that get added in when it comes to weather, just temperatures, all those things, elevation. There's things that when you're on a treadmill and you're focusing on your form, you don't have to think about. And so, like I said, you kind of have that single mind focus of the form. But then if you only did treadmill running and then went immediately into your race, there's a good chance that that form breaks down faster, because you're thinking about so many other things like, oh, this headwind or this rain or the cold or this hill or this downhill, like whatever it may be. That would be the one big con I would say to treadmill running, is that if you're not running outside at all and you're solely focusing on the treadmill and your form on the treadmill, once you add in these minute variables, even the road condition, like a bumpy road. I have some dirt roads that I run on where it is really inconsistent, especially through the winter months where there's snow and then it melts, so then all the dirt roads kind of get these potholes and then it snows again. Even those small things are small variables that take my mindset away from focusing on my form, because I'm focusing so much on not like rolling my ankle. And so that, like I said, would be the big con, is that if you're not actually running outside and you're just doing treadmill running and focusing on that form, when you go to race, there's a good chance your form's gonna break down a lot faster, just because you're focusing on so many other things that are distracting you from focusing on being a really efficient runner and keeping that proper form throughout your entire run. And so that is it for my pros and cons of running on a treadmill. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and found it helpful and or informational. If you did, please don't forget to hit that like button. Leave a comment below letting me know ways that you utilize the treadmill through the winter months, if you do at all. And as always, do not forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you can get updates on when I'm uploading my next video. Thanks for watching.